I stood alone at Elaine's grave as rain began to fall, the finality of 43 years of marriage hitting me like a physical blow. The other mourners had drifted away, leaving me with my crushing grief. Then Amanda appeared beside me, her face wearing an expression I couldn't quite place. She placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "Dad, you don't need that old car anymore. You barely drive these days." Before I could respond, she slipped her hand into my coat pocket and removed the keys to Elaine's cherished Mustang. With a slight smirk, she turned and walked away. I watched in stunned silence as my daughter drove off in the vintage convertible that held my most precious memories of my wife. The drive home from the cemetery was the longest 20 minutes of my life. My son Travis insisted on driving me in his sedan, concerned about my state of mind. At 68 years old, I'd faced plenty of hardships, but nothing compared to losing Elaine after 43 years together. "Dad, I can't believe Amanda just took Mom's car like that," Travis said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Want me to call her right now?" "Not yet," I replied, staring out the window. "I need time to think." The truth was, I couldn't process one more emotional blow that day. Elaine and I had purchased that candy apple red 1967 Mustang convertible when we were newlyweds, scraping together every penny for the down payment. It wasn't worth much back then, just a used car we could afford on our teacher salaries. But over the years, as classic Mustangs became collectibles, it turned into our most valuable possession. More importantly, it was Elaine's joy. She called it her freedom machine, and some of my favorite memories were weekend drives along coastal roads, her auburn hair blowing in the wind as she laughed. Even when cancer made her too weak to drive in those final months, she'd ask me to help her sit in the passenger seat, just to feel the leather and remember better days. Our modest ranch house felt empty when Travis dropped me off. The sympathy cards covering every surface only emphasized Elaine's absence. I sank into my recliner and let the memories wash over me. Elaine and I had built a good life together on our public school teachers' salaries. We raised 3 kids, put them through college, and managed to retire comfortably 5 years ago. Amanda was our firstborn, arriving when we were just 27. She had always been different from her siblings, more demanding, more concerned with appearances. While Travis and Jordan seemed content with our middle-class life, Amanda always wanted more. She married Gary, a successful insurance executive, and moved to the upscale part of town with their 2 children, Zach and Lily, now 16 and 14. Elaine was the one who maintained family harmony, smoothing over Amanda's difficult personality and keeping the peace. I tended to withdraw from conflict, something Elaine gently criticized me for. "Bryce," she'd say, "sometimes love means standing your ground." I wished I'd listened better. The Mustang had been a point of contention for years. Amanda had repeatedly suggested we sell it and upgrade to something more appropriate for seniors. Each time, Elaine firmly refused. 2 weeks before she passed, when Amanda brought it up again during a hospital visit, Elaine had mustered her failing strength to say, "That car stays with your father, Amanda. It's not negotiable." I was interrupted from my thoughts by my phone buzzing. It was Travis. "Dad, you need to see this," he said, his voice tight with anger. "Amanda has already listed Mom's car for sale online. She took pictures of it weeks ago, before Mom even passed. She sent me screenshots by accident, thinking she was sending them to some buyer." The floor seemed to drop beneath me. The listing price was $20,000 below the car's actual value, marked as quick sale needed. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. Elaine wasn't even in the ground for a full day, and Amanda was already erasing her memory for a quick profit. "Dad, are you still there?" "Yes," I managed to reply, though my voice sounded distant to my own ears. "I'm still here. Jordan and I want to confront her. This is theft, plain and simple." "Let me handle it," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. "Your mother would want me to deal with this directly." After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness of our living room, surrounded by photographs of a life well lived. In one, Elaine leaned against the Mustang, our 3 children small enough to sit on the hood together, all of us smiling in the summer sun. I picked up the frame, tracing Elaine's face with my finger. "I don't know how to do this without you," I whispered. But somehow, I knew I had to try. The next morning, I drove my old pickup truck to Amanda's two-story colonial in the prestigious Oakwood neighborhood. My hands trembled slightly on the wheel, not from age but from the confrontation ahead. I had spent most of the night rehearsing what to say, trying to channel Elaine's diplomatic but firm approach to family conflict. Amanda's perfectly landscaped front yard seemed to emphasize the distance between her life and the modest one Elaine and I had shared. As I walked to the front door, I spotted the Mustang parked in their 3-car garage, looking strangely out of place among their luxury vehicles. Gary answered the door in business casual attire, his expression shifting from surprise to what appeared to be genuine discomfort when he saw me. "Bryce, I wasn't expecting you," he said, stepping aside to let me in. "Amanda's in the kitchen with the kids. I'm so sorry about Elaine. She was an incredible woman." Something in his tone made me think he might understand my position better than I'd anticipated. I'd always found Gary difficult to read, a man who seemed to exist in Amanda's shadow despite his own professional success. I found Amanda at the kitchen island with Zach and Lily, reviewing brochures from what looked like luxury car dealerships. She straightened when she saw me, a flash of something like guilt crossing her face before her usual composure returned. "Dad, we weren't expecting you," she said, echoing her husband's words but with none of his warmth. "You should have called first." "I want to talk about the Mustang, Amanda," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Lily perked up. "The red convertible? Mom said she's going to teach me to drive in it." Amanda shot her daughter a warning look before turning back to me with a practiced smile. "Dad, we've been worried about you driving at your age, especially with your cataracts. That car is dangerous for someone in your condition. I'm just looking out for you." "My cataracts were taken care of last year," I replied. "My license is current, and my doctor says I'm perfectly fine to drive." "Still, that old car has no modern safety features," she continued, her tone shifting to one I recognized from how she spoke to her own children when they were being difficult. "Besides, you never drive it anyway. It was just sitting in the garage gathering dust." "It was your mother's car," I said, feeling my carefully prepared speech evaporating in the face of her dismissal. "She specifically wanted me to keep it." "Mom's gone, Dad," Amanda said bluntly, causing both her children to look uncomfortable. "And that car is worth a lot of money that could be put to better use. I've already found a buyer who's very interested." "You listed it without asking me," I said, finding my voice again. "The car is still in my name." Amanda's expression hardened. "Well, the title was in both your names, and as her daughter and executor of the will, I have every right to liquidate assets for the estate." This was a lie, and we both knew it. Elaine's will was straightforward, leaving everything to me with specific bequests to the children after my passing. But before I could point this out, Gary interrupted. "Amanda, maybe we should discuss this privately," he suggested, looking between us uneasily. "There's nothing to discuss," she snapped. "Dad's upset, which is understandable given his grief, but he'll see this is for the best once he's thinking clearly again." Her dismissal of my mental capacity struck like a slap. I looked at my grandchildren, noticing their discomfort, and decided this wasn't the time or place. "We'll talk about this later," I said, turning to leave. "But that car is not for sale." Gary followed me to the door, speaking quietly. "Bryce, I'm sorry about this. Things have been complicated lately. Give me a call tomorrow, okay?" The drive home was a blur of memories. Elaine and I picking up our kids from school in the Mustang, all three squeezed into the back seat. Road trips to the Grand Canyon, the car packed with camping gear. Teaching each child to drive in it. Elaine pretending not to be terrified as they practiced in empty parking lots. When I arrived home, there was an unfamiliar sedan in my driveway. A woman in a business suit stood on my porch, consulting her phone. "Mr. Harrington? I'm Patricia Dawson from Westlake Legal Services. I was your wife's attorney. I've been trying to reach you regarding a private matter. Mrs. Harrington asked me to handle after her passing. I invited her in, confused about what legal matter Elaine would have kept from me. Your wife came to see me 3 months ago, Patricia explained as we sat in the living room. She asked me to hold this letter for you, to be delivered after her funeral. She handed me a sealed envelope with Elaine's distinctive handwriting on the front. For Bryce, when I'm gone. She also left me this, Patricia continued, placing a flash drive on the coffee table. It contains financial records she felt you should have. She was concerned about certain family matters. After the lawyer left, I sat holding the letter, almost afraid to open it. Finally, with trembling fingers, I broke the seal. My dearest Bryce, Elaine had written, if you're reading this, I've left you alone. Something I swore I'd never do. I'm sorry, my love. There's something I've kept from you to protect your relationship with our daughter. Over the past 8 years, Amanda has approached me privately multiple times for loans. At first, it was for the children's private school, then for renovations, then for investments Gary knew nothing about. All told, she's borrowed nearly $70,000, with promises to repay that were never kept. I've included all the evidence on the drive. I know how much you value family harmony, but I fear Amanda will take advantage of your kindness after I'm gone. Protect yourself, my love. And whatever happens, keep our Mustang. Remember us as we were in that car, young and unstoppable. All my love, always Elaine. I read the letter 3 times before plugging in the flash drive. It contained meticulously organized folders with bank statements, emails, even recorded phone conversations between Elaine and Amanda. In the final audio file, dated just weeks before Elaine entered hospice care, Amanda could be heard pressuring her mother to change the will to give her the Mustang directly. Mom, Dad doesn't even drive it anymore, Amanda's voice said. It's worth a fortune now, and I have connections to sell it for top dollar. That car is not for sale, Elaine had replied, her voice weak but resolute. It stays with your father. End of discussion. I sat in stunned silence as the recording ended, feeling as though I was seeing my daughter clearly for the first time in years. The phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. It was Travis again. Dad? Did you talk to Amanda? Yes, I replied, still processing everything I'd learned. And there's more. A lot more. Can you and Jordan come over tomorrow? We need to talk. The next afternoon, Travis and Jordan sat across from me at the kitchen table, both looking stunned after I showed them Elaine's letter and the contents of the flash drive. Travis, my middle child, ran a hand through his hair, looking remarkably like I did at 38. A high school math teacher like his mother had been, he'd always been the analytical one. I knew Amanda had money problems. But this is beyond what I imagined, he said. $70,000? While driving luxury cars and taking European vacations? Jordan, my youngest at 35, wiped tears from her eyes. A social worker with a big heart like her mother, she was visibly shaken. I can't believe she'd pressure Mom while she was sick. That's just cruel. There's something else, Travis said hesitantly, pulling out his phone. I've been keeping track of some things over the years. He showed us a spreadsheet documenting instances of Amanda's financial manipulations, missing family heirlooms after her visits, and patterns of behavior going back nearly a decade. Why didn't you say something sooner? I asked, hurt that he'd kept this to himself. Mom asked me not to, he admitted. She said confronting Amanda would only tear the family apart, and she couldn't bear that. Jordan looked down at her hands. Mom asked me to keep quiet too. Amanda came to the hospital when you weren't there, Dad. She tried to get Mom to change the will in her final weeks. Her voice broke. Mom refused, and Amanda got really angry. I wanted to tell you, but Mom made me promise not to add to your burden. The weight of all these secrets pressed on me. Elaine had been protecting me all along, sheltering me from the truth about our daughter while bearing the burden herself. Had I been so blind? Or had I simply chosen not to see? What do we do now? Jordan asked. Take legal action? The car is legally yours, Dad. We could call the police. Let me try talking to her one more time, I said, with both of you present. Maybe seeing us united will make her realize she can't manipulate us individually anymore. We agreed to meet at Amanda's house that evening. I called ahead this time, saying only that all three of us needed to speak with her about an important family matter. The tension was palpable as we sat in Amanda's formal living room, the kind of space designed to impress rather than comfort. Gary sat beside her on the white leather sofa, looking increasingly uncomfortable as I calmly presented the evidence of her financial manipulations and the legal documentation proving the Mustang belonged solely to me. "This is ridiculous," Amanda said, though her face had paled. "Those were gifts, not loans. Mom wanted to help us. And as for the car, I'm just trying to be practical. What's the point of keeping an old car that just sits in the garage?" "Your mother specifically wanted me to keep it," I said. "You knew that, yet you took it anyway, the day of her funeral." "You're twisting everything," Amanda said, her voice rising. "I've always been the responsible one, while you two were Mom and Dad's favorites." She gestured accusingly at her siblings. "They've turned you against me, haven't they?" "No one's turned anyone against you," Travis said firmly. "Your own actions have done that." "We just want the car returned," I said, trying to keep the conversation focused. "It's not yours to sell." "Fine." Amanda stood up, her composure cracking. "Take the stupid car. But don't expect me to keep supporting this family when none of you support me." "Supporting the family?" Jordan echoed incredulously. "Amanda, you've been taking from Mom and Dad for years." What followed was ugly. Amanda's careful facade completely crumbled as she screamed accusations, claimed we were all jealous of her success, and finally ordered us to leave. Her children had come downstairs during the commotion, witnessing their mother's meltdown. "You're all against me," Amanda shouted at the door as we left. "Even you," she spat at Gary. "Some husband you are." The drive home was silent, all of us processing what had happened. "I never knew she could be like that," Jordan said finally. "It's like she's a completely different person than the sister I thought I knew." "She's been hiding who she really is for a long time," Travis replied. "The question is, what do we do now?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Gary. "Bryce, I need to talk to you privately," he said, his voice low. "Can you meet me tomorrow morning at Carson's Diner downtown? There's something you need to know about why Amanda wants to sell the Mustang so quickly." The next morning, I found Gary already waiting in a corner booth at the diner, a virtually untouched cup of coffee in front of him. He looked like he hadn't slept, his usual polished appearance notably absent. "Thank you for meeting me," he said as I sat down across from him. "What I'm about to tell you stays between us, for now, for the kids' sake." He took a deep breath. "Amanda's been gambling for years. Online casinos mostly, but also trips to Atlantic City when she claimed to be at business conferences. She's in debt, Bryce. Deep debt to people you don't want to be indebted to." My shock must have been evident, as Gary continued quickly. "I only found out recently myself. She's been hiding it, taking out second mortgages, maxing out credit cards in both our names. The loans from Elaine were just the tip of the iceberg." "And the Mustang?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "The buyer isn't a collector," Gary admitted, looking ashamed. "He's connected to the people she owes money to. They suggested the car as partial payment. They're giving her pennies on the dollar for its actual value. But she's desperate. We both are." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm scared," he said simply. "These aren't people you can reason with. And because Elaine was always kind to me, even when I didn't deserve it, she would want you to know the truth." As I drove home, the pieces fell into place. Amanda's increasingly lavish lifestyle, despite Gary's steady but not extravagant income, the constant need for loans, the desperation to sell the Mustang quickly and below market value. My daughter wasn't just selfish or materialistic. She was an addict in the grip of a destructive compulsion, willing to steal from her grieving father to feed it. The realization brought no satisfaction, only a deeper sadness for what our family had become. The days following Gary's revelation were a blur of activity, as I tried to understand the full scope of the situation. Travis took time off work to help me, using his analytical skills to piece together the financial trail Amanda had left. "It's worse than we thought," he said one evening, surrounded by papers spread across my dining room table. "Based on what Gary told you and these credit reports, She's at least $200,000 in debt, not counting whatever she owes to these loan sharks. We'd managed to access Amanda's credit history legally through Gary, who as her spouse had legitimate access to their joint financial information. What we found was staggering. Multiple maxed-out credit cards, a second mortgage on their house, personal loans from 3 different banks, all taken out over the last 5 years. How could Gary not notice this? Jordan asked, bringing us coffee as we worked late into the night. People see what they want to see, I said, thinking of how I'd ignored the signs of Amanda's behavior for years. And Amanda's always been good at keeping up appearances. I called Gary the next day, asking him to meet me at my house. He arrived looking even more haggard than before. I brought these, he said, handing me a folder as soon as he walked in. The original ownership documents for the Mustang. They were in our safe at home. Amanda doesn't know I took them. I opened the folder to find the original title in both Elaine's and my names, along with the transfer document when Elaine had removed her name 2 years ago, leaving me as the sole owner. She was planning ahead, I realized aloud. Elaine knew she was sick long before she told any of us. Gary nodded. Amanda found these about a month ago. She was furious that the car was only in your name. That's when she started pressuring Elaine to change the will. What about this buyer, the one connected to Amanda's gambling debts? His name's Vincent, Gary said, lowering his voice, though we were alone in the house. I've only met him once, when he came to our house unannounced. He was polite, but there was something about him that terrified me. He said the car would satisfy part of what Amanda owes, with a payment plan for the rest. How much does she owe these people? Gary hesitated. She won't tell me exactly, but from what I've pieced together, at least $50,000. The Mustang is worth over $70 on the collector's market, but they're only crediting her $30 against the debt. I consulted with a lawyer the following day, one recommended by Patricia Dawson, Alan Frazier, specialized in both family law and property disputes. After reviewing all the documentation, his assessment was clear. The car is legally yours, Mr. Harrington. Your daughter has no claim to it whatsoever. We can file a stolen property report with the police today if you want. I hesitated, thinking of the complications. What if she refuses to give it back? Or what if she's already sold it? If she's sold property that isn't hers, that's another criminal charge, Alan explained. But before we go that route, I'd suggest one more attempt at resolution within the family. Sometimes the threat of legal action is enough. I left his office with a formal letter asserting my ownership rights and demanding the return of the vehicle within 48 hours. It felt strange to be taking such measures against my own daughter, but I kept thinking of Elaine's words. Protect yourself, my love. That evening, Travis, Jordan, and I sat at my kitchen table, strategizing our next steps. We need to address more than just the car, Jordan said. Amanda needs help. Real help for her gambling problem. You can't help someone who doesn't want it, Travis countered. And right now she's not even admitting she has a problem. Maybe this is an opportunity, I suggested slowly, an idea forming. If we approach this right, we might be able to recover the car and get Amanda the help she needs. Over the next few hours, a plan took shape. It wouldn't be easy, and it would require confronting painful family dynamics we'd avoided for years. But as I listened to my children talk, I felt a strange sense of purpose emerging from my grief. Dad, are you sure about this? Jordan asked as the night grew late. It's going to get ugly before it gets better. I'm sure, I said, finding a strength in my voice I hadn't felt since Elaine passed. Your mother protected all of us for too long. It's time I started doing my part. The next morning, I was awakened by urgent knocking at my door. It was Gary, his face ashen. Vincent came to the house last night, he said as soon as I let him in. He says the deal for the Mustang needs to happen by Friday, 3 days from now. He brought someone with him, a really intimidating guy who just stood there saying nothing. Amanda's freaking out. Did she tell him about our dispute over the car? No, Gary said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. She's afraid of what they might do if the deal falls through. Bryce, These people aren't playing around. This new development accelerated our timeline. I immediately called Alan Fraser, who advised contacting the police. But there was a complication. Without proof of direct threats, and with Amanda unlikely to cooperate, law enforcement options were limited. "We need to get the car back before Friday," I told Travis and Jordan when they arrived later that morning. "And we need to document everything that happens from here on out." We drove to Amanda's house together, the lawyer's letter in hand. But when we arrived, the house appeared empty, and the Mustang was gone from the garage. A teenage neighbor walking his dog provided the answer. "If you're looking for Mrs. Harrison, they all left this morning, packed suitcases in their cars. Said they were going to visit family for a few days." Travis tried calling Amanda repeatedly, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Calls to Gary went unanswered as well. Even the children's phones were turned off. "She's running," Travis said as we regrouped at my house. "She knows she's cornered. Or she's completing the sale early," Jordan suggested. "Maybe this Vincent person pushed up the timeline." I felt the situation slipping through my fingers. The car that held so many precious memories of Elaine seemed further away than ever. But as I sat in my quiet house that evening, alone with my thoughts, I remembered something Elaine had said during her final weeks. "I've kept a journal all these years," she had told me. "It's in my blue hat box in the back of the closet. When things get difficult after I'm gone, you might find some comfort there." I hadn't looked for the journal yet, the pain of reading her private thoughts too raw. But now, I climbed the stairs to our bedroom and found the vintage hat box pushed to the back of Elaine's closet, still surrounded by her clothes that I couldn't bring myself to pack away. Inside, beneath a collection of old greeting cards and small mementos, was a leather-bound journal. As I began to read, I realized it was more than just personal reflections. Elaine had documented everything over the years. Amanda's loans, her manipulations, her attempts to get the car. And in the final entries, written in an increasingly shaky hand, was Elaine's plan for exactly the situation I now found myself in. "Bryce will need help standing firm," she had written. "Our sweet man always wants to keep the peace, even at his own expense. If Amanda takes the Mustang, as I fear she might, the answer lies in the safe deposit box. The key is taped inside this journal cover. I've left something there that will give Bryce the leverage he needs. Forgive me, my love, for not sharing this burden with you sooner. Some battles I hoped you'd never have to fight." Taped inside the back cover was a small key. Tomorrow, I would find out what Elaine had left for me, and hopefully, find a way to bring our family back from the brink. The next morning, I stood in a small private room at First National Bank, staring at the contents of Elaine's safe deposit box. Inside was a sealed manila envelope with, "For Bryce, in case of emergency," with Amanda written across the front, a USB drive, and a smaller envelope labeled "Legal Documentation." I opened the main envelope first. Inside was a letter from Elaine, along with bank statements and a formal loan agreement between her and Amanda, dated 5 years ago, for $50,000, with a repayment schedule that had never been met. The agreement had been notarized and appeared legally binding. "My darling Bryce," Elaine's letter began. "If you're reading this, Amanda has taken things too far. I've always tried to protect you from the worst of her behavior, but perhaps that was a mistake. The enclosed loan agreement is real and enforceable. Amanda signed it when she came to us for help with their financial troubles 5 years ago. She's never made a single payment, despite the generous terms we offered. I've kept track of everything, including interest, which now brings the total owed to over $65,000. I know it seems harsh to hold our daughter to this, but sometimes love means setting firm boundaries. Use this if you must, but only as a last resort." The USB drive contained video recordings of meetings between Elaine and Amanda, discussing the loan and subsequent requests for money. Elaine had documented everything meticulously, clearly anticipating a day when this evidence might be needed. Armed with this new information, I met with Alan Fraser again. He reviewed the documents and confirmed their legal validity. "This changes things," he said. We now have leverage beyond just the car. If your daughter has hidden assets or lied in financial disclosures, this could have serious consequences for her. We decided on a two-pronged approach. First, we would attempt to recover the Mustang with police assistance, using the clear title documentation. Second, we would prepare legal action regarding the unpaid loan as a contingency plan. That afternoon, Travis, Jordan, and I met two police officers at Amanda's house. To our surprise, the garage door was open, and the Mustang was back in its spot. Gary answered the door, looking relieved to see us with the officers. "She's inside," he said quietly. "The deal with Vincent fell through yesterday when he found out about the title dispute. Someone tipped him off." The officers explained that they were there to oversee the return of my property, showing Amanda the title documentation that clearly listed me as the owner. For a moment, it seemed like everything would be resolved peacefully. Then Amanda appeared. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice rising immediately. "That car has been in our family for years. My father is elderly and confused. He gifted that car to me months ago, before my mother passed away." "Ma'am, the documentation clearly shows your father as the legal owner," one officer said patiently. "Documentation can be manipulated," Amanda insisted. "My father has been acting erratically since my mother's death. My siblings are taking advantage of his mental state to turn him against me." I was stunned by how quickly and convincingly she crafted this narrative. The officers exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with what was becoming a complicated family dispute. "Look, sir," the other officer said to me, "the vehicle is here and not reported stolen prior to today. Since there's a dispute about whether it was gifted, this becomes a civil matter rather than criminal. You'll need to resolve this through the courts." "But the title is in my name," I protested. "It's clearly my property." "I understand. But your daughter is making counterclaims that we can't verify or disprove on the spot. You'll need to file a civil complaint and let a judge sort it out." As the officers prepared to leave, Amanda's expression changed to one of smug satisfaction. "I'm sorry you had to see my father like this," she told them loudly enough for everyone to hear. "He hasn't been the same since Mom died. We're very concerned about him." The officers departed, leaving us at an impasse. Travis was furious, Jordan close to tears. I felt a complex mixture of emotions: anger at Amanda's manipulation, shame at being portrayed as senile, and underneath it all, a deep sadness for what our family had become. "This isn't over," Travis said as we walked back to our cars. "She can't just lie her way out of this." But over the next few days, it became clear that Amanda was prepared to escalate her campaign. My phone began filling with concerned calls from family, friends, and distant relatives, all asking about my well-being. Amanda had taken to social media, sharing posts about elderly parents suffering from grief, induced confusion, and the difficult decision to take away the car keys. Without naming me directly, she was crafting a narrative that painted her as the responsible daughter protecting her declining father. "She's trying to get ahead of the story," Travis said when he showed me the posts. "Making people question your mental competence before you can challenge her version of events." The situation grew more complex when Gary called to tell me Vincent had resurfaced, now demanding immediate payment of Amanda's gambling debts since the car deal had fallen through. "He's given her until Friday to come up with $20,000 as a good faith payment," Gary said, his voice strained. "I don't know what we're going to do. I've already maxed out my business credit line trying to cover her debts." Meanwhile, the family conflict began affecting others. Travis received a call from his principal, asking about concerning information someone had shared about his family situation. Jordan's children came home from school upset because their cousins, Zach and Lily, were telling classmates that Grandpa is going crazy. The weight of it all began to feel crushing. I spent a sleepless night wondering if I should just let Amanda have the car to end the conflict. Was a vehicle, even one with so many precious memories, worth tearing our family apart? What would Elaine have wanted me to do? The answer came the next morning, when I returned to her journal, reading the final entries she'd written in her last weeks. "I worry most about what will happen to our family when I'm gone," she had written. "Bryce is stronger than he knows. but he's never had to stand against Amanda without me as a buffer. The car isn't just a car. It's a symbol of everything we built together, our legacy of love. If Amanda takes it, she's not just taking a vehicle. She's erasing a piece of our history for quick cash. Some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight is painful. I hope Bryce realizes that sometimes, the hardest stand is the most necessary one. Reading Elaine's words, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about a car anymore. It was about honoring Elaine's wishes and standing up for the values we had shared. It was about truth, in a situation clouded by manipulation and lies. I called Travis and Jordan, asking them to come over immediately. When they arrived, I shared Elaine's journal entries with them and laid out a new plan. We're going to try a different approach, I told them. Something your mother would have approved of. The next morning, I made 2 important phone calls. The first was to Alan Fraser, outlining my new approach and asking for his legal assistance in drafting the necessary documents. The second was to Gary. I need to speak with you and the children, I told him. Without Amanda knowing, it's important. Gary agreed immediately, suggesting we meet at a coffee shop near his office during Amanda's therapy appointment. A session she'd reluctantly agreed to attend after Gary's ultimatum, though she still denied having a gambling problem. 2 hours later, I sat across from Gary, Zach, and Lily, all looking nervous but curious. I want to be completely honest with you, I began. Your mother has been struggling with something very serious, and it's affected all of us. I explained Amanda's gambling addiction in age-appropriate terms, the financial problems it had created, and her attempts to sell the Mustang to cover gambling debts. So that's why Mom's been so crazy lately, 16-year-old Zach said, looking more relieved than shocked. I found gambling apps on her phone months ago. When I asked about them, she freaked out and said they were research for work. 14-year-old Lily had tears in her eyes. Last week I heard Mom on the phone arguing with someone about money. She saw me listening and told me it was just a telemarketer, but she seemed really scared. Gary looked surprised at how much his children had already pieced together. We thought we were protecting you by not discussing it, he admitted. Kids always know when something's wrong, I said gently. They just don't always know what. I outlined my plan to help Amanda, while also resolving the dispute over the Mustang. It would require their participation, but only if they were comfortable with it. To my surprise, both teenagers immediately agreed. Mom needs help, Lily said firmly. Real help, not just pretending everything's fine. With Gary and the children on board, we moved forward with the plan. Alan Fraser prepared the legal documents I needed, while Travis and Jordan helped arrange what we were calling a family meeting at my house, ostensibly to discuss Elaine's will. We invited all the extended family members Amanda had been turning against me, knowing she wouldn't want to appear uncooperative in front of an audience. The day before the meeting, I made one final visit to Elaine's grave. It was a beautiful autumn afternoon, the cemetery quiet except for the rustle of falling leaves. I think I'm finally doing what you wanted, I said aloud, placing fresh flowers beside her headstone, standing firm, but with love. I hope I'm getting it right. I could almost hear her voice on the breeze. You are, my love. You are. The next day, family members began arriving at my house at 2 in the afternoon. Amanda and Gary were among the last to arrive. Amanda clearly surprised by the large gathering. I had arranged the living room with enough seating for everyone, with a small table at the front holding a stack of folders. What's all this? Amanda asked suspiciously. I thought we were just reviewing Mom's will. We'll get to that, I said calmly. First, I wanted to thank everyone for coming. It means so much to have family together during this difficult time. I began by speaking about Elaine, sharing memories that brought both tears and laughter from those gathered. Then I shifted to the real purpose of the meeting. Elaine believed in facing problems directly, I said. She wouldn't want us to tiptoe around difficult issues, especially when they affect the whole family. So today, we need to address something important. I explained the situation with the Mustang, showing the title documentation that clearly listed me as the owner. I described how Amanda had taken the car after the funeral and her attempts to sell it against my wishes. Amanda's face flushed with anger. "This is inappropriate," she hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself, Dad." "I'm not finished," I continued steadily. "This isn't just about the car. It's about patterns of behavior that have been hurting our family for years." I distributed folders to everyone present. Inside each was a copy of the loan agreement between Elaine and Amanda, bank statements showing the money transfers, and a summary of the total amount owed with interest. 5 years ago, your mother and I lent Amanda $50,000, I explained to the stunned room. Despite multiple promises, not a single payment has ever been made. According to this legally binding agreement, the current amount owed is $65,000 plus interest. "Those were gifts," Amanda protested, but her voice lacked conviction as she stared at the documented evidence. "Mom kept records of everything, Amanda," Travis said, his voice gentle but firm. "She recorded your conversations where you specifically agreed to repayment terms." Amanda looked around the room, realizing she was cornered. "Fine," she snapped. "I'll return the stupid car, but I can't repay the money. We don't have it." "We know about the gambling, Amanda," I said quietly. The room fell silent. Amanda's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice trembled. "Yes, you do, Mom," Lily said suddenly, standing up from her seat. Everyone turned to look at the teenager, whose determined expression reminded me powerfully of Elaine. "I found the collection notices hidden in your desk. I know about the people who've been calling and threatening Dad. I know you've been lying to all of us." Amanda stared at her daughter in shock. "Lily, you don't understand." "I understand enough," Lily continued, her voice gaining strength. "You need help, Mom. Real help." The facade Amanda had maintained for so long finally crumbled. She put her face in her hands and began to sob. "I tried to stop," she said between gasps. "So many times. But then things would get stressful, or I'd be sure I could win back what I'd lost. I never meant for it to go this far." Gary moved to sit beside her, placing his arm around her shoulders. "We can get through this," he said, "but only if we're honest about it." The mood in the room shifted from shock to compassion. My anger at Amanda dissolved as I watched my daughter finally confronting her demons openly. This was what Elaine would have wanted. Not punishment, but healing. "I have a proposal," I said, once Amanda had regained some composure. "The legal papers in your folders include a formal agreement. I will forgive the entire loan under the following conditions. First, the Mustang is returned to me immediately. Second, Amanda enters a residential treatment program for gambling addiction, which I will help pay for. Third, full financial transparency going forward, with Gary managing all family finances during recovery." Amanda looked up, confusion replacing the defiance in her eyes. "You'd do that? After everything I've done?" "You're my daughter," I said simply. "Your mother would want me to help you, not punish you. But this is your only chance, Amanda. There won't be another one." After a long moment, she nodded. "I'll do it," she said quietly. "All of it. I'm so tired of lying." I brought out the final document, a formal agreement containing all the terms we'd discussed. With our family as witnesses, Amanda signed it. As the meeting concluded, family members came up to offer support and encouragement to Amanda and Gary. Others approached me with apologies for believing the things Amanda had said about my mental state. Throughout it all, I felt Elaine's presence, her wisdom guiding us toward reconciliation rather than further division. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Gary brought the Mustang's keys to me. "She wanted to do this herself," he said, "but she's exhausted. The treatment center has a bed available starting tomorrow. I'll be driving her there first thing in the morning." I accepted the keys, feeling their familiar weight in my palm. "Take care of her, Gary," I said. "The road ahead won't be easy." "I know," he replied. "But for the first time in years, I feel like we might actually make it." As he turned to leave, he paused. "Elaine would be proud of you, Bryce. The way you handled this. It was exactly what Amanda needed. What we all needed." After he left, I walked out to the garage where the Mustang now sat. I ran my hand along its gleaming red surface, memories flooding back of all the journeys it had witnessed. I could almost see Elaine sitting in the passenger seat, smiling at me with that mixture of love and mischief that had captured my heart all those years ago. "We did it," I whispered to her memory. "We brought the family back together, just like you would have wanted." 6 months passed, bringing changes I could never have anticipated on that painful day at Elaine's funeral. Amanda completed the 90-day residential treatment program and continued with outpatient therapy and Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Gary attended support groups for families of addiction and took control of their finances, with Travis helping to create a strict budget and debt repayment plan. Most surprisingly, Amanda and I had begun rebuilding our relationship, starting with long, honest conversations during my weekly visits while she was in treatment. The walls of resentment and manipulation that had separated us for years slowly came down, revealing the wounded but loving daughter underneath. Today was special, the first family gathering at my house since the intervention. As I watched everyone arriving through the living room window, I felt Elaine's absence acutely, but also sensed her approval of what our family had become in her absence. Jordan arrived first with her husband and children, bringing her famous apple pie that was almost as good as Elaine's. Travis followed shortly after with his fiancée Sarah, whom he had proposed to last month, using his grandmother's ring that Elaine had left for this purpose. Gary and the kids arrived next, Zach and Lily immediately heading to the backyard to set up the badminton net, a family tradition on warm spring days. Gary looked more relaxed than I'd seen him in years, the burden of Amanda's secret no longer weighing him down. Amanda was the last to arrive, carrying a small wrapped package. She looked different, her designer clothes and perfect makeup replaced by jeans and a simple blouse, her face showing both the strain of the past months and a new kind of peace. "Hi, Dad," she said, giving me a genuine hug. "Sorry I'm late. My meeting ran long." "No problem," I assured her. "I'm just glad you're here." After lunch, as everyone relaxed in the backyard, Amanda asked if we could speak privately. We walked to the front of the house where the Mustang sat gleaming in the driveway. I'd had it professionally detailed and some mechanical work done, returning it to the condition it had been in during Elaine's healthier days. "I wanted to give you this," Amanda said, handing me the small package she'd brought. Inside was a keychain with a framed photo of Elaine and me in the Mustang on our 25th anniversary. "I found the original photo in Mom's things when we were helping you organize last month," she explained. "I thought you might like having it with the car keys." The thoughtfulness of the gift brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you," I managed to say. "Your mother would have loved this." Amanda looked at the car, her expression contemplative. "I was so wrong about this car, Dad. I saw it as just a thing, an asset to be liquidated. I never understood what it really meant." "It's more than metal and rubber," I agreed. "It's 43 years of memories." "I have a favor to ask," Amanda said hesitantly. "Would you take Zach and Lily for a ride in it sometime? Tell them stories about Mom? I've realized they didn't get to know her the way they should have because I was always so wrapped up in my own problems." "I'd love to," I said, touched by her request. "How about today?" Amanda smiled. "That would be perfect." Later that afternoon, with Zach in the front passenger seat and Lily in the back, I took the Mustang for a drive along the coastal route that had been Elaine's favorite. As we drove, I shared stories about their grandmother, how she'd taught generations of students to love mathematics, her terrible singing voice that never stopped her from belting out songs on road trips, the way she'd insisted on driving this very car to the hospital when she went into labor with Amanda. "Grandma sounds awesome," Zach said, running his hand appreciatively along the vintage dashboard. "She really was," I agreed, "and she would have been so proud of both of you, especially these last few months. Supporting your mom through recovery hasn't been easy." "It's actually better now," Lily said. "Even though things are harder financially, Mom is more present. She actually listens when I talk to her." When we returned to the house, everyone was gathered on the patio. Amanda approached as the kids excitedly shared details from our drive. "Dad," she said quietly, "could I ask one more favor? Could I sit in the car for a few minutes, just to remember Mom?" I handed her the keys without hesitation, watching as she settled into the passenger seat, never the driver's seat, I noticed, and closed her eyes, likely reliving memories of her own. That evening, as the family prepared to leave, Amanda hung back after the others had gone to their cars. "I don't think I ever properly apologized," she said. "Not just for taking the car, but for everything. The way I treated Mom when she was sick, the lies, the manipulation. You've apologized in the ways that matter most," I told her. "By getting help, by changing. Actions speak louder than words." "I still can't believe you forgave the loan," she said, shaking her head. "After everything I did. Your mother and I always wanted the same thing, for you to be healthy and happy. Money can be replaced. You can't." "I'm trying to be the person you and Mom always believed I could be," she said, her voice catching. "It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most worthwhile." One day at a time, I reminded her, echoing the phrase she'd learned in recovery. That's all any of us can do. As I watched her join her family in their car, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The pain of losing Elaine would never completely fade, but something new had grown in the space left by her absence, a stronger, more honest family bond, forged through crisis and recovery. The next weekend, all 3 of my children arrived to help with a project I'd been contemplating for months. In the backyard, under the shade of the old oak tree Elaine and I had planted when we first bought the house, we built a memorial bench using wood from the fallen maple in her parents' yard that we'd saved for a special project. Once it was assembled, Travis attached a small brass plaque engraved with words from Elaine's journal. "Love doesn't mean avoiding conflict. It means finding the courage to face it together." On a warm Sunday afternoon a few weeks later, I invited the entire extended family for a special gathering. With everyone assembled around the memorial bench, I proposed a new tradition, an annual family reunion in Elaine's honor, dedicated to honesty, healing, and moving forward together. As I looked around at the faces of my family, I saw Elaine in all of them, her smile in Jordan's expression, her determination in Travis's eyes, and most surprisingly, her capacity for transformation in Amanda. The Mustang sat gleaming in the driveway, no longer a source of conflict but a symbol of continuity and enduring love. Later, after everyone had gone home, I sat alone on the memorial bench, watching the sunset colors that Elaine had always loved. The grief was still there, a companion I was learning to live with, rather than an enemy to be defeated. But alongside it was a profound gratitude for the legacy she had left us, not just in memories or possessions, but in the values that had guided me through this difficult journey. Standing up for what matters, even when it's painful. Holding firm to the truth, even when lies seem easier. Choosing reconciliation over retribution. These were Elaine's greatest gifts to me, to our children, and now to our grandchildren. I realized that the Mustang had been more than just a car, or even a collection of memories. It had been the catalyst for a necessary transformation in our family, one that might never have happened otherwise. In fighting to keep it, I had found something far more valuable: my own voice, my own strength, and ultimately, a deeper connection to the people Elaine and I had brought into this world. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced since before Elaine's diagnosis. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but I was no longer traveling it in confusion or fear. Like the Mustang that had carried our family through decades of joy and sorrow, I was moving forward with purpose, carrying Elaine's love with me every step of the way. Have you ever had to make a difficult stand within your own family to protect something that truly mattered to you? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most important healing. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening, and remember that it's never too late to rebuild what seems broken beyond repair.